What's up, everybody? Just want to take a quick second and let people know that I am self-supported. I now put all of my episodes on Substack for paid subscribers. I put them up early, and then 24 hours later, I release them to the public on all my platforms. I also have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Zelle, a PO Box, and I don't think Locals, Patreon. And all of the links are in the show notes of every single episode I put out. So look forward to continuing to provide great conversations. And thank you all for your continued support. John Waters, Michael Yan, thanks for coming back. Michael, you just start off with what you were just saying. You got a lot going on. So what is at the top of the list right now of things?
It's funny. I just got a message right now from our friend Matt Bracken, who's been over to Ireland looking at the situation over there. And I don't know if you noticed, by the way, Trump just said, or not Trump, but Bannon just said that he expects Trump will be president in 2028, a third term. Yeah, I'm just sending that to Matthew now. Let's see what old Matthew has to say about that. Matt Bracken. Matt Bracken has turned out to be so accurate on his long shot prognostications that I put him on the A1 list to listen to, which is a hard list to get on. A lot of things going on, and as John well knows, in Ireland and the UK in general, and not that the Republic of Ireland is the UK, but you know where I'm going to. In Europe in general, and United States and Canada, and here in Japan, the same situations are unfolding. Tomorrow there's going to be a big protest in Tokyo because of the crimes that are being committed by the invaders. There's a story going around in Japan now that a man and his wife were attacked, and the wife was raped, Japanese young wife, and was impregnated and committed suicide, right? And so this is the sort of stuff, however much true or lie is involved, we know that the rapes are happening. We know that the murders are happening. We know that they don't need to be here and should not be here. And so at the end of the day, this is happening in Ireland. As you know, it just happened to a girl in Ireland. Was it 10 years old, I believe? And
Yes.
This is daily in Ireland, daily across America, daily across Europe, and daily here in Japan. And people are sick of it. At the end of the day, though, if there's not going to be any protesting your way out of this, writing letters is not going to work. I mean, man has to man up, or you're going to get genocided. It's that simple. I mean, when we get down to what's really happening, you're being cleared off the land. You're being genocided, just like Gaza. Different techniques. They're not kinetically bombing you with their airstrikes and F-16s and whatnot, but you're being genocided, death jabs, all sorts of things. Here in Japan as well. I was just over in Thailand again recently. All the children in Thailand were taken from school and jabbed. Let me let that sink in. All the children in Thailand were taken from school and jabbed. What will the effects be on Thailand in 20 years? I don't know. We're going to find out. And likewise, similar happened here in Japan. Similar happened across America and Panama and many other countries where many, many children were jabbed. What's this going to do to their fertility rates? I don't know. What's it doing to their mental states? I don't know. One thing that we can see, and it's almost become a dark joke, is that guy jabbed. Because we see people acting crazy. We get in taxis with taxi drivers who are just not their normal high-functioning selves, right? Like here in Japan, even an average waiter or waitress tends to be quite intelligent, right? They tend to be pretty sharp, At one point, I was getting a haircut last year in Okinawa, and the barber was so sharp on tracking food supply issues and the soil around everywhere. The guy's obviously been studying for decades. We actually asked him to close his barbershop and go to dinner with us. Masako and I did. And we did. We took him to dinner. That's like an average Japanese here. They study like crazy, all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? I love them. And they're highly jabbed now. And we can see that you can sense it. It's almost like the lights are being turned out in people's minds, and so the genocide is going full bore.
This episode is brought to you by McIlvaney Financial Group. Their advisors bring a depth of knowledge and experience that allow them to serve their clientele with care, ensuring their financial needs are met now and in the future. Personally, I'm not saying cash is worthless, but you can see what's happening. It's worth less every year. Gold is the opposite. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to www.mcilvaney.com/coffeeandamike.
Yeah, the Irish situation, the episode you referred to there, Michael, I mean, it's a 10-year-old girl, reportedly autistic, who was raped in a IPAS Center, International Protection Center, so-called. There were protest demonstrations outside after the event, and these were attacked. The demonstrators were attacked by police force. It's unclear whether they were regular police or whether they were robo-cops bussed in for the occasion, which has happened multiple times before. But what happens is, it seems very clear that demonstrations are always infiltrated by roughnecks whose job it is to start trouble, to start throwing bottles at the cops, to start causing a rumpus that the cops then respond to. And we've had extraordinary reports of the cops just wading into the crowd, battering people, journalists actually, not mainstream journalists obviously, because they're not interested in reporting this, but people like Ezra Levant of Rebel News was pepper sprayed by cops in the course of these demonstrations, and GB News people were attacked as well. So the gloves are completely off here, and of course the Minister for Justice thing comes out, and instead of actually talking about the 10-year-old girl, he talks about the riots, and this is the issue. So you see, this is all being constructed in a way that in Ireland at least is impossible almost to penetrate the fog of disinformation and lies that have been engineered by the government, because people are living in a kind of a bubble of normalcy bias, in which they cannot believe that there could be anything nefarious at the back of this. Never mind if what you say, Michael, that this is genocide. And of course it is. It's obvious if you take off the fake cap you're wearing for the pseudo reality and put on any kind of a seeing device, you see that this is absolutely clearly orchestrated to replace, to remove, to drive out the indigenous population or kill them off, and to replace them with anybody. I mean, we've heard, and there's reasonable grounds for believing this, because it has been said many times, that in the course of what happened in Ireland and in other countries, that many African and Middle Eastern countries essentially emptied their prisons and their psychiatric hospitals into the countries of the West. And that a lot of these guys that are running amok now in our country are raping and stabbing and absolute causing mayhem in the streets, defecating in the streets, doing things like basically decivilizing Western civilization in plain sight. That this is like reached new levels, and yet the people of our country, and I think many other Western countries, in the great majority, believe that this is some form of overreach based on compassion, humanity, decency, charity, and that it's just gone too far. That our government, is so exuding such compassion for its fellow man, that it's just gone too far. It's overreached itself and isn't able to keep up. But in fact, of course, it is the direct opposite. This is an attack on their own people, being engineered by the people that were, by the politicians who were entrusted with the precious care of their country. And they have betrayed that in every conceivable way. And yet it is invisible to people because the media is completely corrupt. The media will not report what happens directly. couple of, it's noticeable in this now that at the beginning, one or two tabloids are beginning to break away and starting to publish the details, more and more of the details, that it is an asylum seeker, that it is, that there was a rape and so on. The mainstream, the national broadcaster and so on are, generalities, no references to the nature of the crime, no reference to the nature of the assailant, and so on. So we're in the biggest trouble we've ever been in Ireland, and I think the same is true of Britain and many other European countries. But I think Ireland really, because for all kinds of reasons to do with our history, our kind of naivety, the kind of monolithic nature of our culture. It's a small island, and we just tend to have one of everything, more or less. We don't have the diversity that you have in media and so on in the United States and other countries. We are completely at the mercy of these forces.
John, why do you think that certain tabloids now are revealing the truth? Because I'm a cynic, and to me, I wonder if it's all by design. So why do you think it's happening now?
That's a very good question, Mike. And in my naivety, I might be inclined to say that it has to do with perhaps that they're in the course of their family lives, they're in their neighborhoods, they're beginning to pick up that there is a different kind of thinking emerging in the populace about this. But I'm not sure, given the kind of particular newspapers that are involved. There's one called the Daily Mirror, the Irish Mirror. It's a branch of it's an offshoot of the English Mirror, which was always a pretty sordid rag, or has been for a long time. It used to be a great newspaper way back in the 70s, I remember, when you had Keith Waterhouse and people like that writing for it. But it's gone into a terrible rag. And I mean, recently it was referring to me as a far-right writer because I was involved in a festival that was being cancelled or attempted to be cancelled. It didn't succeed. So they were going after me every day. So exactly right, Mike. I would suspect their motives in this context somewhat. You just don't know what kind of double game is being played here to kind of half reassure people, to draw people on and in, and then to whammy them as they got whammied in City West outside this IPAS centre the other night. And but the most dismaying thing is that the government is, which is, Irish people, as we know, intent upon destroying. It seems clear that is intent upon destroying the fabric of Ireland, of its political structure, its demographic structure, its culture, every aspect of it. That seems clear. I don't think there's any disputing that now. This idea that, the word, we can any longer listen to people with any degree of patience who talk about, when you mention the word replacement, when you mention the word invasion, when you mention the word plantation, who then scream conspiracy theory, conspiracy theory. Our patience has got to run out on those questions. This is, as Michael says, this is a genocide, and it is well advanced at multiple levels, not just in the killing context, which is there. We've seen that since 2020, since the spring of 2020, with the injections, with the cull that occurred in April of 2020 in the nursing homes, but on a broader cultural level, I mean, what's actually, if you look closely at the patterns of Irish life now and see that young people cannot stay in the country and have a life for themselves. They have no expectation of being able to own a home, therefore of getting married and having children in the normal way. This has been denied to them, but it is being extended to people who come from outside. They have been given the keys of their front doors to go and live in their apartments or their houses, which are gifted to them by the state, while they meet, having met the person they're replacing at the airport on the way in. This is how criminal it is. There's nothing like, you see, we have spent years and years shallying, trying to duck and dive in the face of these questions, afraid of trying to avoid being called racist, being called xenophobe, being called Islamophobe, whatever. It's too late for that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they call me now. the question I have is there going to be a homeland for my granddaughter? Yes or no? Can we stop this in time? Can we stop it at all? I mean, I was saying to a friend of mine this morning on the phone that, because he said, like, do you have hope still? And I said, I got to answer that very carefully because, I don't want to kind of just come out with a platitude, which is the normal recourse in these situations when somebody says, oh, but have you got anything good to say? Have you anything positive to say? I'm kind of inclined to say no. No, you kind of reserve a little bit that if this and unless that, yes, maybe. But at this moment, there's nothing that I see on the horizon in Ireland that offers any possibility of gaining traction against this, what is happening. Even against the idea that it is happening, to get that idea across to people that this is what it is, that it's not something else. This is not what they think it is. This is not an excess of compassion. It is not anything to do with the economy. It is not anything to do with the necessary demographic correction because we're losing our own people. We are, but why? Why, if we were losing our own people, did they introduce abortion in 2018 at the very critical moment, just when we might have actually put the brakes on it? They decided we're going to start killing 10,000 children a year. Now, that mightn't sound an awful lot of children. It's a lot of children when you see them all in one place, I can tell you. But and think about them in one place. But I mean, in America, that would be a small statistic, sadly. In Ireland, it's a vast statistic. It's huge. It's a small town every year. Not at all that small of a town, actually. A medium-sized town in Ireland every year. And nobody talks about this because the conversation, it is like our larynx has been cut out because of the corruption of the media. We can't have this conversation. This conversation that we're saying, the things I'm saying now cannot be heard in the mainstream of Irish life. There is no channel into the public square. There is no channel into the hearts of people. So where do we go? And as Michael says, the men are being completely castrated over the last 50 years. There are no men really in Ireland in the physical sense. Certainly, they're wimps. We're all wimps. But, even at the level of moral courage, which maybe is a harder thing to have, or I don't know, but that's a rarity also. We're about to elect a communist president, a woman, who will have got elected by refusing to answer questions. She's been discovered in vast hypocrisy in relation to having represented banks and vulture funds and having people thrown out of their houses in the past 15 years. She just refuses to answer the questions, and people are voting for her in huge numbers. In a certain sense, you would have to say we, in the collective sense, deserve whatever happens to us after this. But do we really? Does my granddaughter deserve it? I don't think so.
Michael, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's baked in the cake if people don't stand up and defend it themselves. I mean, I've got many books on Ireland. So a lot of them have titles just like this. I got a whole shelf of books with this title, or this title are very similar. Dark Ireland, Vanishing Irish. Yeah, I mean, it's just many. I've got a whole bunch. I just brought a couple of them in. And what's happening is nothing new, actually. Demographic replacement that is old. I mean, I've got so many books on it from so many centuries. I mean, like, go back to, good Lord. I mean, let's go back to 1217, with the acts, the Charter of the Forest, right? I don't know if you're familiar with that in Ireland, but the Charter of the Forest, where, followed the Magna Carta, because, the king basically owned the forest, and, they weren't allowing people to hunt out there, the king's deer and all that stuff, right? We're not allowed to collect wood to have fires. And so getting down to the bottom line is the king would move people around, just like my family line, or my culture anyway, the Scots-Irish. The Scottish were moved up to fight the Irish, and then they became the Scots-Irish, and then they were moved over to fight Cherokee, to the Americas, or what was America back then, right? So I mean, this plowing under populations and replanting new populations is old. It's very well described. I've got so many books on it. It's unbelievable how famine is used to repopulate people. I just got this book, actually, just came in, Famine in the Remaking. And this one is actually about famine in Hawaii and in Madagascar and Colombia. I mean, I'm sorry, not Colombia, but Cambodia. And so, I mean, it's food system change and mass starvation in Hawaii, Madagascar, and Cambodia. As you know, the Irish have been attacked with weapons of famine in the past very effectively, very effectively. The Irish population never recovered from the famine in the late 1840s and early 1850s, right? Many of the Irish ended up all over the world or died.
Yeah, you see, there's a kind of, I completely understand what you're saying there, Michael. There is an element, though, in the present discourse, such as it is in Ireland, whereby all of this activity through history, whereby populations came and went, invasions happened, and the Vikings came, the Normans came, and they became more Irish than the Irish. This kind of rhetoric is used in the current debate as though, it's always happened, and therefore.
No. Let me finish what I'm saying. I didn't finish. This is what it is. I mean, you are being genocided because the powers above want to genocide and take that land. This is straight up taking the land, like Lahaina, Hawaii, or North Carolina, the big floods after the hurricane. This is literally replanting people. I'm not saying this is straight up weapons of democracy.
No,
right?
I'm not saying that.
But I mean, they're taking Ireland. Ireland is being taken to be sold off. It's being parceled out, just like the United States is. Just like many places around the world are being, they're genociding the people there to take their land, right? That's what's happening. So the Irish, you're being genocided to take your land. That's it. I mean, if you were to move somewhere else and that land is valuable, well, that's what we did to the Indians, right? What did we do to the Indians? We fed them up full of fire water. We killed them mostly with whiskey. We just robbed them of their minds with the fire water, with whiskey, right? It wasn't really rifles that killed most of the Indians. It was whiskey. And we killed their buffalo. We killed their food supplies. But what we would do is we would move them out of the valuable land that they were on, and move them Trail of Tears out to Oklahoma. Of course, they didn't know about the oil was there yet. So I mean, we would move them off of the places where they were suited, like the Cherokee in North Carolina, and move them out. So they would be moved around, weakened, fire water. We would trap them with various debt traps that students who have student loans would be very familiar with today. We did very similar to the Indians. I think a lot of university people might not realize this is a very old game, and this is what's happening to the Irish. This is what's happening to the Germans just today. I mean, it was just in the news. They just blew up cooling towers to a nuclear plant. So it's not just Ireland. This is Europe in general. The United States, Canada are being genocided of what is now their native populations, which replaced populations before. Here's the thing. If you don't fight back, you will be genocided. It is that simple. It's that simple. Just skip all the bullshit. Get down to the part where if you don't fight, you're going to die. It's that simple. And they're doing the same here in Japan. That's why there's a big protest tomorrow in Tokyo. So about maybe 12 hours from now, there should be a big protest in Tokyo about the invasions that are happening here as well.
Michael, what would be the understanding in the Japanese people in general about the nature of what is happening? Do you understand the point I'm making about that there's an occlusion of the issue in Ireland very strongly? Is the same true in other countries that you've been through? Is there a dawning awareness of the absolute truth?
They're dawning an awareness, a large part of that is because of my wife, Masako, is the expert in Japan on this. I mean, we've been to 30 countries, including Ireland, in the last 4 or 5 years looking at this. We've been all over South. We've been to Colombia, Argentina, Panama, Guatemala. I mean, so many countries. Look, 30, right? And all over Europe, looking at the situation of what's happening. They're doing the same in Thailand. Now, a lot of the Thais don't notice it yet, just like a lot of the Irish didn't notice it until recently. But the Japanese are just now waking up, and now they're starting to call Masako, my wife, constantly because they know she's been studying the elements who do this, like IOM, International Organization for Migration. Keep in mind, I say the elements who do this, they are just the structures that are being used, like IOM, the International Organization for Migration, United Nations, and all these. These are the structures that are being used. Above that level are the oligarchs, right? The oligarchs are the kings and the queens, those who see themselves as anointed by God, the chosen people, or whatever. Remember, the kings of the old days always saw themselves as anointed by God to rule over the peasants and the people, right? Whether it's King Henry III or King John or whomever, right? All these people saw themselves as anointed by God and chosen people. Look, what's happening in Gaza right now is exactly what's happening in Ireland, other than the techniques. It's exactly what happened in Lahaina with the fire. It's what happened with the floods in North Carolina, killing off the people, getting them off the land because of what's under the land or the routes that are there, like Panama. Panama is going to see war for sure, right? Panama Canal, one of the most important places on earth. The reason that leaving that canal and going over to the Suez Canal opened in 1869. That is specifically why Israel is there today. Israel was formed later because Suez Canal, when it opened in 1869, there were English that did not want to open that canal because they rightfully argued that it would end up being, it became the spinal cord of the British Empire, right? And so what I'm getting to is routes and resources. This is about routes and resources. That's what this is about. Kings want the routes, or oligarchical systems who see themselves as kings and queens. They want their fiefdoms, right? So why was Israel formed? It was formed for the same reason Panama was formed. We formed Panama on November 3rd, 1903, in order to create the Panama Canal, which opened in 1914. So we created Panama off of a slice of Colombia to create the canal. Over in Suez, that opened in 1869 previously, and then the British started to say, basically the Egyptians ended up taking it, as they said, as some of the English people before the canal even opened warned that it would happen. They warned that it would end up with, French would be involved in the war with the English and also, or the British. And so Israel was formed to have control over Suez Canal. Just the same reason we made Panama out of thin air, right? We made Republic of Panama out of thin air, right? So that we could create the canal. Israel was formed so that we could have control, or the British Empire could have control, and then America sort of took the reins of that over the Suez and influenced the region. Now, what's happening with Gaza? Well, there's a lot of energy off of Gaza, right? There's a lot of, and the clearance is not over. Basically, what's happening in Gaza is the same thing that's happening in Ireland. That's one of the things that Israelis or the Zionists hate about Ireland. The Zionists hate the Irish because the Irish are siding with the people in Gaza because they see themselves in the same situation, and they're right. They're actually right. I mean, the Irish are right? And they are in a similar situation. They're being genocided because of their land. People want your land.
I would have to question that, Mike, in this sense. I think that it's a wrong emphasis. The reason that the identification with Gaza has to do not with a consciousness of contemporary genocide in Ireland, quite the contrary, but it has to do with the history of genocide and that experience through history, which has been a slow learn for many Irish people, because up to very recently, if you talked about famine as anything other than some kind of naturalistic, the potato famine, you would be attacked by your own people, in public conferences and so on. That happened to me for years when I was using terms like famicide, which didn't go down at all well with the native population. So that the identification with the Palestinians is, I think, yeah, it's a sentimental attachment based on a kind of a fellow feeling based rooted in our history and their history. But it doesn't convey to me anything like the idea that we're in the same danger now. I mean, look at
you are definitely in the same danger. You're being genocided.
You
straight up.
There's no consciousness of that. Is my point, Mike.
I see. There's no consciousness of it, but it's happening. The death jabs and all that, right?
One of the main elements from the Irish political system that is embroiled in that is Sinn Féin, which used to be known as the political wing of the IRA. Now, their policy now is, having fought for 30 odd years to expel the British presence in Ireland and failed. They now want to open Ireland up to the entire world. They are now a George Soros funded woke party, cultural Marxist party. They have no loyalty to Ireland as a nation. They have no loyalty to Irish history. It's like that they overnight switched from being a pretend nationalist party to being a completely out and out globalist party back in 1998.
You mean Sinn Féin? Sinn Féin. Yeah. I was out with Mary Lou McDonald, right? She's got an IQ of about 80. I was in Dublin with her. Masako and I we went to a bar with her, actually. So I was asking Mary Lou McDonald, and we walked down the streets with her, and everybody's like, oh, Mary Lou, Mary Lou. Everybody recognizes Mary Lou. She was the leader of Sinn Féin. She had just given some speech we went to. And then we walked with her around Dublin, and we went to this bar, and I wanted to talk about food supply and all. But keep in mind, she was installed into Sinn Féin simply because she is a little meat bot. I mean, she's going to do what she's told to do. She's got a very simple personality and a very simple mind, and that's why she's in that position, or was in that position, right? And so what's happening is Ireland is a nice piece of real estate. It's an important piece of real estate, and it's being taken. When you look at it from the position that these global players look at it, the Irish are just other people to clean off the land. The famines that you had, it was a famine site, whether you had more than one. But the one that started, roughly 1845, arguments say, the potato famine, and ended in early 1850s. People argue when it ended, but obviously it was massive. Obviously, it was highly contrived, right? The English were not allowing food to come in from America. Like even Chippewa Indians, I think, tried to send food. I mean, they were, the Victorian famines are quite real. I've studied up on those quite a lot. They did them in Bangladesh and India, did them down in Africa, right? And the English know how to do famines. They know how to throw a big famine, right? And as you know, much of Ireland was not even in famine. The Northern Ireland, the Protestant area, was not even in famine, right? And there were some counties where there was no famine at all, and other counties they were doing cannibalism, and so there was, obviously the fight between the Protestants and the Catholics was ongoing and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, it was about genocide. They were trying to clear the Irish off the land, and that's what's happening. So this is a process. It's not an event. It's a process. How did we clear the Indians off of the land? It took centuries, right? In fact, it's not even done. It's still ongoing. And when I'm down in Panama with the Indians down there, with the Kuna Indians and the Imbara and the Wunan Indians, there's other tribes as well, but those are the ones I'm always out with. They're being cleared off the land too, and they're using the old processes that I read about how we did it to American Indians up in what's now the United States. It was a long process, and a lot of it included nothing but alcohol. It included debt traps and breaking promises. And by the way, I'm not saying that, and therefore everybody in America is bad and we should give everything up. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying, as I've studied through the years and through the decades, I start to realize, that wasn't something that happened then and it's over. It's a river that still flows. The river is still flowing. Like, look at so many Americans that are in debt traps for student loans, right? You're a slave. You're a debt slave, saving in fiat, earning in fiat, and you have student loans. So when it comes time for the death jab, and the average American medical student owes $250,000 and the student loans, of course you're going to give the death jab or you're going to lose your house and your medical license. This is the sort of traps that we did to the Indians. It just was in different ways. We did debt traps like this on local. It's not just us. The Chinese do it. Many different people have done this through time before America was even born, before the United States was born. These things were done already, and then we did them too. We joined the party, and that's what's happening in Ireland. All these, it's a unrestricted war, as the Chinese might say, or full spectrum war, as Americans might say. You're being hit with so many different types of weapons, and they're beyond the cognition of the average person to even see. If you look at my library, which is quite extensive, this is a small part of it. It's about war. My library is about war, but there's no books on tanks. There's no books on jets. There's not a single book in my library on guns, because that's the low level. That's the plumbing of war. That's like, Navy SEALs, Green Berets and all that. I was a Green Beret. That's like the plumber level of war. That's like the plumber, right? That's not where the big war happens. The big war happens in ways that most people can't even see it. They get genocided off their land in ways that they can't even imagine. That's what's happening to Ireland right now. It's a very comprehensive war.
I agree entirely. It's a propaganda war. It's a psychological war. Michael, how do you see the command structure which is behind this? Do you have a kind of a map of that in your head? Who are these people? Who are at the top of the pyramid? What are the elements in that cabal, as you understand it?
Right. It's different oligarchical structures, and some of them are, go back centuries, and others emerge, emergent structures. Like, first of all, let's talk about where do we want to start? I mean, we can start. Let's start with the British royal family, since you're directly affected by that. Go back to 11 and 1200s, like the pipe rolls. Have you heard of the pipe rolls? The pipe rolls, you know what I'm talking about? The pipe rolls are census that were taken in the 1100s, right? And and those were all about getting control of the landowners, right? The king wanted to, get control. He wanted to know who owns what, how many chickens they got, how many cows they got, how many people are under the household. He started doing a census, right? And by the way, when I was down with the Embra and the Kuna Indians and they started doing a census, knocking hut to hut, door to door, I was there. I was physically there with the Kuna and Embra when they're doing it. I'm like, I've got the actual original census right here, the 11th census of the United States from 1890, where we were doing a census of the taxed and untaxed Indians, right? And so let's go back to the pipe rolls in the 1100s. So the king is like, hey, we need to see who owns what, because when you want to get control of something, you need to map it out, right? You need to map it out. There's many forms of maps. It's not just geographical maps with rivers and whatnot. It's who owns what. It's anthropological warfare, and so human terrain. And now, with the pipe rolls, that was so that the king could start to get control of the barons, right? Now, let's fast forward to this 11th census I have right here. This happens to be it. It's one of those heavy old books. So here it is. It was put together. They started in 1884, and it was the 1890 census of the United States. And it's the taxed and untaxed Indians, right? And anyway, I'll save a lot of the details, but they were set. This census, here it is. You can screenshot that. This is those old books, so it's quite heavy. It's very heavy. I don't know if you can see it. The taxed and untaxed Indians, right? This book weighs like 30 pounds. It's so it's those high quality old books, and so it's the report. Indians taxed and Indians not taxed. The United States. It's the 11th census from 1890, right? And this book is a work of art. You should see it. Now, this was setting up to do what's called the Dawes rolls, which was very similar to the pipe rolls from 1100s, right? The Dawes rolls, the United States had something called the Dawes Act, which was going to give land to civilized tribes of Indians. What were the civilized tribes? The civilized tribes were the taxed tribes. We said the civilized tribes were the 5 civilized tribes, the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, and Seminole, and one more, Creek. Who was it? They were the civilized tribes because they accepted Christianity. In reality, they were being taxed, right? So let me show you something here. So this is what's happening to you right now, right? So you've been well counted. Oh, this interesting book is about, basically many of the economic tricks we would. So this is the Dawes Act and the decline of Indian farming, right? But let me get to this. So
it's very interesting, Michael. I mean, in recent years, there has been a real uptick in the amount of information required by the government in its census procedures.
Because they're going to kill you. Because they're going to kill you.
Right? The number of bathrooms, the number of floors, a number of people living in the houses. I mean, anybody with sense gets out of the jurisdiction for the census because it's none of the government's business what your house is like inside. But anyway,
that's right. Yes. When they're starting to count you like that, like the United States has been deeply and intricately remapped in the last few years, right? Thousands of flights remapping the United States with very detailed analysis, right? Because it's being taken, it's being parceled out. Where's the copper? Where's the lithium? Where's the whatever, right? And so now we go to, here we go. This is called, so I was talking about the pipe rolls from the 1100s. Now let's fast forward to the Dawes rolls, right? This is during the same time, by the way, when Theodore Herzl and those guys were, getting set up. They were being set up. The Zionists were being set up to go take Israel, right? This is the same time frame, right? Theodore Herzl, he came out with his book in 1896 and 97. I've got it right here. And, about going over to Israel. And anyway, so this was happening at the same time, right? And while we're going down in Panama doing that, all the same time, right? This was Manifest Destiny. So during this Manifest Destiny period, here we go. This is called, there was the Dawes Act. So Indians who were in one of the 5 civilized tribes who could get in what's called the Dawes rolls. If you could get your name in this book, you would get yourself some free land that we took from you. And now we're going to give it back to you like a land rebate. So this is what's happening. So if you can get, this is an original book. This is the Dawes Act. This is the Dawes rolls. These are the actual rolls. So if your name is in this book, your family line is in this book, you can get a piece of the casino today, right? I mean, literally. That's why the Cherokee Indians are so deeply into genealogy, just like the Mormons, right? So in this book, it's got the names and it's got, for instance, how much of your blood quantum is whatever tribe of the 5 civilized tribes. So here's the 5 civilized tribes of the, here's one, Perry Crowder, age 22, male, blood quantum is 1/2, and his census card number is 3611. So Perry Crowder, you're going to get you some land, right? And so this is what happened. So we got control of the Indians. We gave them land so we could then tax them and have them. We're remaking the human terrain so that we can control it, right? Okay. That's what's happening in Ireland. That's what's happening in Gaza.
Who is the we? Who is the we, Michael? I mean,
the oligarchs.
Can I add something here? So, John, I didn't mean to cut you off, but where I think some of the architects are for it too, and I'll be curious what both of you guys think, because everybody talks about George Soros, and I probably said it to you guys in our previous conversation. He is 95 years old. I know he's got a son, and I know he's got organizations, but I keep coming back to the tech bros, right? The Peter Thiels, the Sam Altman, Alex Karp, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. They are to me the architects that are building these instruments.
Yes, Mike. I agree. But what I would like to kind of get a handle on is the architecture of this control system, the command system. Like, because we hear there's bankers are involved. There's Zionists. There's elite families, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, etc., etc. How does this hang together? Is it an actual structure, or is it some kind of informal kind of set of interrelationships which work on convenience and interest, self-interest, or is there really an orchestrated sort of almost like central council situation whereby this attack on Western civilization is being organized, and implemented systematically, as sometimes it appears to be.
Well, WEF, World Economic Forum, is one of those emergent systems to do just that. Right now, you've got different oligarchical structures. The West has been trying to destroy Japan for several centuries, and they've not succeeded yet, but they're working hard on it still. This is a process, right? And so the United States, for instance, we started mapping out Japan very hard by 1853 and 54. In fact, I have those maps right here, the originals, right, like feet away from me, right? So I study this quite a lot. The United States started mapping out Japan right at the time we are doing our detailed studies in Panama to make a Panama Canal, and that's where it took generations to figure out where we're going to put the canal. We're going to put it in Nicaragua. We're going to put it in Mexico. We're going to put it in Colombia. How are we going to do it? And it took, then the French failed. And so this has been a long process. Who's doing it? Who's doing it? Now, who did the globalism? You have to look back at original globalism. When does original globalism start? I mean, at least thousands of years ago, minimum. But it really went maritime and roughly, outside the Med, let's say, in about 1415 with an attack in the Med, actually when the Portuguese kind of sailed around the corner and attacked Ceuta, right? So in 1415, and you'll see how the structure sort of evolves over time. The Portuguese attacked Ceuta, which is now an enclave in Morocco. I went there few years ago with Chuck Colton. We went to the Morocco side, actually. So the Portuguese attacked Ceuta. They had run out most of the Muslims of the Iberian Peninsula. So the Spanish and the Portuguese were, they had some time on their hands, and the Portuguese went over there to Ceuta, and they got a lot of gold, and things emerged from there. So the Portuguese, they had for several generations. I'm going somewhere important with this, and it'll come right back to the Republic of Ireland, right? The Portuguese, they had their own go until 1492 when Columbus sailed the Ocean Blue. When Columbus sailed the Ocean Blue in 1492, the Spanish got involved. So up until that point, it was just Portuguese starting to make colonies at places like Ceuta and starting to peck around Africa and that sort of thing. And the Spanish are like, wow, these Portuguese are bringing back a lot of gold. And so the Spanish got involved. Of course, Columbus sails over, runs into Cuba and thinks it's Japan and that sort of thing. But now is when the big oligarch starts to get involved. That was the Pope, the sixth Pope, Alexander. And he says, wait a minute, my Portuguese and Spanish boys are starting to fight each other for who's going to rule the world, as if either one of them could. But, so he divided the world in the Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494. So there you go. Boom. There's when the big oligarchical superstructure gets involved, divides the world in two, and says, this side is Portuguese, this side is Spanish, but you got to leave these certain areas alone because they're already Catholic, right? But everything else that's not Catholic, go for it. In fact, you have to take missionaries with you. That's why actually Brazil speaks Portuguese today, and it's filled with black people from Africa because the Portuguese had Brazil because it fell on that line, the first line, the Treaty of Tordesillas from 1494. And then later, about 30 years later, they had another treaty, and so Zaragoza, and that was when Japan got drawn, the map that went right through here. And so because, as the Spanish and Portuguese grew, they started mapping out the world more and more. What I'm getting to is that big oligarchical structure at that time was the Catholic Church, right? And then you see the Jesuits sort of come alive, and before you know it, and in 1549, Xavier is rolling up with a ship to Japan, right? And he's down in Nagasaki and that sort of thing. So you see it starts to build. At this point, the British Empire did not exist. Great Britain didn't exist. It did all. I mean, it was just England and Wales and all that, right? And Ireland. And so they didn't exist yet. Now other people start getting involved in the globalism, right? So it starts to pack on. You get obviously the English and the Dutch and you get the Germans. The Germans not as much, but the French, of course. And so over time, these companies like the British East India Company, the Dutch East India Company, all these companies start to get huge and hugely powerful. My family came over with a company called the Virginia Company in 1609, They were going to make this colony in this place called Jamestown, Virginia, right? The Virginia Company, named after royalty. So they get shipwrecked on Bermuda. That's why Bermuda is the longest British protectorate today, is because of the shipwreck my family was on. They're in a book. It was called the Sea Venture, the ship that crashed and wrecked in a hurricane or something. And they ended up on Bermuda for about 10 months. They built another boat. They ended up at Jamestown. That was a company. So all these companies, more and more companies, like for instance, in the 1690s, a company was formed with the Scottish. The Scottish wanted to make a path between the seas in Darien in Panama, the Darien Isthmus, the Isthmus of Panama, right? The Scottish wanted to make. So I'm building an architecture here. The Scottish, with vignettes, the Scottish wanted to make a path between the seas. They raised up a bunch of money. They started they collected a bunch of money from the citizens and the people that had money, and they sailed over to Panama, where I'm at all the time, and they set up a fort there in New Edinburgh, right? And so that mission failed. Actually, the Scottish were doing good. They actually got along with the Indians and nobody got along with. And that jungle is very dangerous. It's like biologically more dangerous than most. So what I'm getting to is, this is very important. This is super important, and it affects you right now today. The Scottish, they failed in that because the Spanish didn't want them to succeed. The English did not want them. Keep in mind, Great Britain didn't exist yet. It's about to exist. So Great Britain didn't exist in the 1690s, right? So Scotland's like, hey, we're going to go out and we're going to get rich. So then they try the second mission. While the first mission is going back with a lot of casualties, it was a lot fewer people. Comes the second mission, right? And they didn't apparently exchange information. Second Scottish mission shows up in Panama, in Darien. The Darien scheme is called, right? And they failed because of the English and the Spanish and the yellow fever and all that down there. And so so Scotland was bankrupt. Scotland was bankrupted, right? And Scotland was bankrupted, and then they got absorbed under the Articles of Union into Scotland and England. Actually, it would be, instead of England and Scotland, it would be Scotland and England. If Scotland had succeeded, it might be Scotland absorbing England. But instead, Scotland failed and went bankrupt. And then that's when Great Britain was formed in 1707, right? Articles of Union, right? So 1706, they kind of started hammering it out. 1707, boom, there you go. So now this is starting to grow. The British Empire is really starting to grow. So you've got these different oligarchical systems. You got the Dutch, you got the Germans, you got the French, you got the Spanish. They're starting to slowly slide down. The Portuguese. Let me get somewhere. You got these. Then there's the Japanese are slowly waking up, very slowly. You've got the Russians, of course. You've got all these different oligarchical systems. And there's always some people that are trying to pull you into the club so they can get you into the club and go club that baby seal over there and take it. But eventually they're going to fight each other. So this same sort of thing blossoms over and over. Now you've got this large, like United Nations and World Economic Forum, all these large systems which are trying to pull all these different oligarchical systems in, which they've successfully done. Mostly the Russians have hanged out, right? And so the Russians are being, they're trying to get rid of the Russians. So there's different oligarchical groups, and they form, they intermarry. Some of them are based on foundations. Some of them are bound, revolve around cults that have been around for at least centuries, if not more. You got the Catholic Church, of course. You got the Jewish side. Then you got the Zionist side, which is separate. You got the Chinese doing their thing, the Japanese doing their thing. So it's always like herding cats. There's the World Economic Forum that's trying to herd. Now, one thing that's very important, all these royal families around the world and all these oligarchs who actually took the jab in the wild and nobody warned them not to do it. Well, guess what? That was either an assassination attempt or they already got you, right? I mean, this is a battle between kings by different names, right? So kings are still killing kings regularly. So who's running the system? Who's running the jungle? I don't know who runs the jungle, and nobody does, because it's a complex system of complex systems. But it is the main fighters are the large oligarchs. You can see, obviously, Soros is just a name. Trump is a face. Trump is not one of the granddaddy leaders. If Trump disappears tomorrow, it's not relevant. He's just somebody that can rally crowds, right? And just like Charlie Kirk or whatever. These are people that can draw crowds to manipulate those crowds into doing the work for the oligarchs.
Okay, Michael, I want to ask you this is, to me, the $64,000 question about now, because now this moment is different. In the past, all of those imperial and colonial waves were coming from the West, within the West, out into the wider world to plunder and so on. Now we have this happening in reverse. Whatever the orchestration of it is, the effect of it on the ground is that it is the West that has been invaded. Now, do you think, or I mean, is there thinking behind this? In the sense that it would have seemed to me to be fairly obvious that if you cut off the West, the West has been the head, the mind of the world for a very long time. If you destroy the West, you regress. The world, it would seem, will inevitably regress to some prior state of existence. And its levels of civilization will decline, its levels of knowledge, its memory, it's all these things will decline.
That's what some of the oligarchs want. They're very clear about it. They're crystal clear. They want that. They clearly want that so they can rule over it, ruling over the ashes. That's what some of the oligarchs clearly want. They say it. They're like the rewilding. Go to the World Economic Forum website. The bears are killing people in Japan constantly now. The bears are killing and injuring people constantly now. The wolves across Europe are doing the wolf thing. I mean, if you go to the rewilding part of the World Economic Forum website, they're clearly talking about doing just this because they see themselves, according to them, I'm not reading their mind, I'm just reading their lips, what they actually say and what they write. They see themselves as anointed by God or Satan or whatever, and they see themselves as the chosen people. And the rest of us are to be cleared off the land and replaced by more malleable people that you don't owe retirement plans to. You don't owe anything to at all. You can just wipe them out. And so that's exactly what they're working to do, is to get rid of us, because they say it. I mean, they're physically doing it. We're clearly going into very large famines. It's just a matter of time.
And are they aware, or are they sanguine about the idea of decivilizing the globe, essentially? Because essentially they're going to knock centuries off human development, human knowledge, human memory, human capacity, despite and we should come to Mike's question about the tech bros and how this fits in, because in another sense, those guys are out there on the frontier, and they're actually leading us into a new dispensation. So they clearly have their place in this oligarchic system as well. How do these elements?
Keep in mind, they're all replaceable. They're all replaceable because the tech bros are just, more fruit on the poison tree, right? When one of them's gone, it'll be like taking the hand out of the water. If one of the big tech oligarchs doesn't exist tomorrow because he has a plane accident or something, it will still keep going because it's the architecture. It's the
machine
is organizational
built. The machine
structure.
is built. The machine is built. It doesn't matter who's at the helm of the machine. Yeah. Not to cut you off, Michael, but
yeah, no, you're right. It's an organizational structure, right? I mean, if one admiral's gone, the Navy's still there, and so the Navy doesn't depend on any of the current admirals. It's built, and like this organization. And so when you're taking things down like this, you have to dismantle the organizational structure. Our Constitution was built around not allowing structures like this to even form in the first place. Of course, we don't pay much attention to the Constitution. And I saw Steve Bannon today talking about how Trump will have a third term in 2028. And I'll guarantee you a huge amount of MAGA people will instantly say, well, that's great. We need Trump again. I'll guarantee it. Because of the psychological operations or just lack of education, they'll be like, well, let's make him, let's make a statue of Trump president for the next 100 years. That's what they'll do.
Surely, Michael, that the implication of that proposal by Bannon, or suggestion, or whatever it is that we will be in the midst of World War III by 2028. Because the only other time that, as far as I understand, that this ever happened before was with Franklin Roosevelt, who had two extra terms in 1940 and 1944 as a result of World War II. and that the exceptional circumstances, the emergency circumstances, justify him holding power for those 2 extra terms. Now, if Trump is the only way that in historical or constitutional terms that this could be permissible is if there is a massive emergency such as World War III in 2028.
Or some terrific emergency in the United States, like a terrorist attack that makes 9/11 look like a day in the park. Something, it could be anything. The electricity could go out. We could be in famine, and Americans. Now, keep in mind, Bannon is not the architect of everything. He's one of the system, right? And so, I'm in direct communication with Bannon often, right? I mean, he's clearly. I was one of the first guests on his show, War Room Pandemic, when I was off in Hong Kong when the pandemic broke out, right? So the pandemic, and he's part of the mechanism to sell this. Obviously, Bannon will see what I'm saying now, and he'll send me a message, right? So I mean, at the end of the day, this is when Bannon just said that. Bannon is in the middle of this. He is definitely one who is A1 placed, right? He's at the table. And so when Bannon just said this openly, it wouldn't be Bannon just making this up last night. That's Bannon. You can see the way he's talking. I replayed it several times earlier today, and I'm like, there it goes. He's prepping the information. Battlefield Steve is extremely good at information war. He's top notch. I mean, he would if there were ranks for this, he would be a 4-star general, right? And he physically does it, and he knows how to make these things work. And so he's prepping the battlefield, just like these books on the Vanishing Irish. They plant the seeds, people get used to it. So right now he's planting the seeds for 2028 so that, you want to get people used to the idea. Right now people go crazy and say, no, that could never happen. And it slowly becomes part of the neural architecture. And before you know it, Trump's president. Now, keep in mind, they can create conditions like you mentioned with Roosevelt. They can do it through many ways. We can end up in famine. We can end up in whatever. The electricity can go out. So many things can happen. And Americans are going to go, whatever, just feed me. That's how this goes.
Well, and the normalization, it's occurring right now in front of our own eyes here in the United States, where you've got the National Guard in D.C. Now the Chicago, Portland, Memphis. He's talked about San Francisco. So this is happening. This is literally being normalized right now in real time.
Look, one thing that's important. I'm in Japan. And it's funny, people will make comments, why aren't you back here helping us in America? You saw the Darien Gap get closed down, right? Hello. That was, our team did that, right? We're the one. It doesn't mean it's going to remain closed. I don't think it will. But why am I in Japan? Hello. Where's Trump going? The new prime minister's in place. He's coming straight here. He should be here in 2 days. Trump should be here in about, 48 hours, right? He's coming straight to Japan, right? Why is he coming to Japan? This is a front line. This is a place where there's going to be war. This is a place where I think there's going to be famines. I am on the front line. And when I'm back in America, where am I at? Texas. A lot of Texans are like, all right, you're coming to Texas. It must be the place to be because they know I do my homework. I do homework like Rain Man. And I'm like, if I'm in Texas, because when I'm not here, I'm in Texas or Panama or those kinds of places. When I'm coming to a place like Netherlands or Texas, if you want peace, you should probably be selling your house because I'm a war correspondent, right? I'm not spending so much time in Texas because I'm hiding out. I'm not in Japan because I'm hiding out. And I'm not in Panama because I'm hiding out. These are going to be front lines of major war, right? And you're going to see it in Texas. If you're in Texas, and you stay in Texas, you're going to see war.
Michael, you see, one of the problems or one of the central problems of trying to persuade people of, what's happening is that it just seems so far beyond the capacity of human beings to imagine that these things could be happening in a modern context because they've been filled with that propaganda all their lives, that we now are in a civilization, and we've kind of reached a new plateau in human development, and this is going to go on, and maybe getting better and better in every way and so on. But nevertheless, that it cannot slide back. And this is the great difficulty. It's almost like an imaginative thing that you have to try to get them to understand, things that are almost incomprehensible. based on our experience alone. For example, I mean, it seems to me that the scenario you sketch out from the point of view of the perpetrators of it, the orchestrators of it, is going to be so destructive of the world that any person thinking about it in advance, planning it out, thinking it through, would have to conclude we cannot do this, not even because we care about humanity, to hell with humanity, as it were. But we ourselves will not be able to survive in the kind of world we will bring about. Life won't be worth living for us because, it's not just a matter of riches. It's not just having a big house and nice carpets and curtains and everything and all this stuff and all you can eat and drink and whatever you want in your life. But, that the whole structure of civilization has given to people additional dividends of satisfaction culturally and through interaction with other human beings and relationships and all of those things. They're going to destroy all that for everybody, pretty much including themselves. Do they know this? Have they thought this through? Or are they just simply working on some kind of formula based on economic principles, very crude economic principles about wealth and wealth expansion and property and power and all those kind of quantifiers, which really don't go into the very realm of the human existence, which brings actual satisfaction beyond all that, which is to be in a situation where you feel safe, you feel loved, you are, with your people that you love, and you're in a familiar situation that is guaranteed by culture and by security and by politics. And this will all be wiped out, and they will be basically back in the fucking jungle.
Right. I mean, clearly a lot of them do know, and they're doing it anyway. And then there's others, I think, that don't know. It depends on which ones you're talking with. I've got one book here. What's the basic laws of human stupidity? What did I do with that book? It's a beautiful book. It's a very short book by an Italian guy named Cipolla. And he divides people into 4 quadrants. The first quadrant is people that act in ways that benefit others and benefit themselves. He calls those intelligent people. So that's quadrant 1, is the smart people. Quadrant 2 is the people that do things to benefit others, but at their own detriment. He calls them helpless people, right? The do-gooders that basically end up living under a bridge. And quadrant 3 are the bandits. They can be very intelligent, but they do things to benefit themselves that hurt others. And then quadrant 4, he says, is the biggest quadrant. That's basically the stupid people that do things that hurt themselves and hurt others, right? That's the quadrant 4, right? Now, and he makes a good case in this book, which you can't tell if it's meant to be satire, but when you look around you, you're like, well, it's accurate. The quadrant 4, the number of stupid people, which he denotes by the number sigma, is the wild card. He's like, one of the rules of stupid people is there's always more than you expected. And education has nothing to do with it. It doesn't matter how much, if you got there's just as many sigma people as Nobel Prize winners as there are, it's just unrelated to education and achievement. Like there are people, for instance, that pushed the jab and took the jab and now they're dead, right? They're like, that was stupid. They actually literally did it and took it and they're dead. But then there's the people that are in quadrant 1, which is the quadrant I work hard to stay in, which is the intelligent class, which helps others and helps yourself. That's the ideal class that we want people to stay in. Stay in quadrant 1, help yourself and help others. That makes our communities very strong, right? But yes. Quadrant 2, that, the ones who help others and don't help themselves, those are the do-gooders that want to tax us away and take our money and throw it away and then, throw it into a bottomless hole. But quadrant 3, again, those are the people that hurt others and they're bandits, right? But what I'm getting to is clearly a lot of the people are below that line. On the top line is the people that help others, and below the line they hurt others. And the World Economic Forum lives below this line. They're mostly either bandits or stupid, and their education level and their wealth level are unrelated to whether they're stupid or not. It's just completely unrelated. Like for instance, the senior BlackRock people many of them took the jab. They took the jab in the wild, right? Now, these are the people you would think, well, they would never do that, of course, because they're basically like the Dutch East India Company today, right? I mean, they're one of those, they're an oligarchical global system. It's one of the old, it's a globalist company, right? But many of the senior people in BlackRock actually took the jab. And now they're very concerned because they're dying off and they're being sick. And again, but that's the people that are in the big, strong, powerful, they know everything companies, and they took the jab and they're dead, right? They're in quadrant 4.
Yes, this is very interesting, this, Michael. And I just want to ask you a couple of questions about that, because it strikes me that our cultures now, and this relates to Catholicism and Christianity, carries within itself many corruptions of what are originally perhaps very sensible ideas. For example, in mass migration, if you look at Thomas Aquinas and read what he said, it was very sensible. It was the natural response of human beings with common sense, which is that you don't allow your enemies in for a start. You make the obligation on the person coming in to revere and love your nation, and then they can, apply to join it. You don't sort of bring them in and then tell them, you're Irish now. You've just arrived off the plane, and so on. So we seem to have all these kind of rampant stupidities in our culture now, which can only have been implanted there deliberately, it seems to me. Because if you go back to the Greeks, to Aristotle, there was thinking there which actually countermanded all of this kind of nonsense. Like Aristotle said precisely in relation to, say, the virtue of generosity, that it exists on a spectrum. And at both ends of the spectrum, it goes into nonsense, damaging, which is on the one hand meanness, miserliness, yes, by all means. On the other, there's complete recklessness in giving away your children's birthright. He says the place to be is the mean, in the middle. So you're neither extreme. And that's lost on us, because you hear clerics now, church priests and so on, telling their people that they're essentially implying that they must give up everything to whoever demands it if their face is black. That's really much the message that they're conveying to their congregations for the last 10 years now in the West, certainly in Ireland and many places I've heard them speaking. The Pope, the last Pope, Bergoglio.
They're easy to fight against, John. You just stop going to their church. That's what you do. You stop. You don't give anything to anybody who's trying to kill you. You should never support. Like so many people support Trump because they go, "What did you want to do? Vote for Biden?" You know what I mean? I'm like, hello. They're both trying to kill you. They're both. Why would you support him? Because he is allegedly worse. You know what I mean? They're both trying to kill you, right? With jabs and everything else. Don't support either one of them. That's with that.
That's another trap, and that's where you get the Hobson's choice. It doesn't matter. So you pick the least worst.
The blue pill or red pill from a guy I don't even know, right? Okay, so some guy is offering me a false choice. You must take the red pill or the blue pill. It's like they're both pills from somebody I don't even know.
But in all these conversations, Michael, I always come back to the same thing, that the denial of the conversation on which democracy and freedom depends, the denial of that, the taking away of that by the corruption of the media has been the most grievous single event in all of this, has it not?
Well, yeah. One of the things that's very important is in the way that we talk, the way that we speak, right? Because words are atomic structures of truth and lies, and they are motive forces. I mean, they are spells, right? I mean, we must think very clearly about the words that we use. Like when people say, hey, they're taking away our rights, or hey, they're not allowing us. That's slave talk. They're not allowing us. Right? Who is King Henry or King John to allow anybody to do anything? He's just some guy. He's a meat bag that shits like everybody else, right? Who is he, right? Who is he? If you're thinking like that, you've already been brainwashed to think like a slave, right? We're not allowed to do such and such. It needs to be, freedom is not something that you're granted. You're not granted freedom. Freedom is something you take. You take freedom. You take it, physically take it, right? And one way or the other, you can either opt out by not helping. Why would you help somebody who's obviously trying to kill you? Only a slave would do that. All these MAGA people, so many friends that I have that are still MAGA. And I'm like, listen, at some point, you are part of the problem. You're part of the problem. You're supporting a guy who we're almost in November of 2025. He's still supporting the death jab, and they still support him, saying he was fooled by Fauci. Who did you want? Biden? Listen, your brain is dead if you still think that supporting Trump is wise, right? It's just brain dead. I mean, the little shocker is not going to work. I mean, the guy is still pushing the death jab. The guy is clearly giving away our country, right? At the end of the day, that's what's happening. We have to stand up. Freedom is not granted. Freedom is something we take.
Yes.
And you're not voting your way out of this, Michael. Can you reiterate that to people?
How are you going to vote your way out of it? I mean, people admit that the voting system is obviously rigged. I mean, so let's just vote harder. Okay. I'm not sure how these equations balance. I mean, so all these variables in here equal fair election when we've already decided that, they stole the elections.
Okay, Mike, can I just spell out a scenario that I've been putting to people in the last year or so? That it seems to me the position of the dissident in this situation, or indeed the citizen in this situation when he doesn't understand it, that the options are very limited. If you have a rogue government, just leave it as local as that. You have a rogue government that is completely destroying your country in plain sight. Okay, what are your options? And let's put them at a sort of a theoretical or abstract level. There are three, it seems to me, for the people to do. They can, and they all start with funnily enough, V. Number one, violent insurrection. Number two, velvet revolution. That's not like a color revolution. That's what happened in Prague in November 1989, when the people went onto the streets and essentially the government ran away. The communists ran away, and Havel was elected as president. So that's velvet revolution. The third is in the one you've just mentioned, and Mike's mentioned, voting, and we say that is, as Margaret Thatcher once said, that is out. Okay, so that leaves us two options. Velvet revolution, which is very hard to orchestrate. You mean it's feet on the ground, it's people, but it's also peaceably, and it also implies that you make sure that there is no disruption, no violence coming. Because if that event in Prague in November 1989 had been attended by the kind of people who attended the protests in Ireland and City West last week, it would have been mayhem. The police, the army would have slaughtered them because there would have been the necessary provocation would have been provided by the people in the crowd who were planted for that precise purpose. So you see, like we say to people, well, you've got to act, you've got to move, you've got to do something. But what? You see, talking only goes so far.
Okay, here's some ideas. Like when I went to see the Mary Lou McDonald speech in Dublin, I went to see it because I'm like, okay, who is this lady who's doing these things to Ireland? And the place is full. I mean, first of all, if you really did not want to support her, don't even go. Don't go. Don't listen to Trump. Don't give money to Biden. Don't give money to Obama. Don't give money to people because this guy allegedly is not as bad as the other. Don't help any of them. Don't help them at all. If you are in a position, you can do things like drag your feet. You can not help. You can not necessarily active, but just passively not passing on a phone call, not passing on a message, not writing a check or writing a check to the opposition. For instance, supporting people like us who are fighting back. With the most dangerous thing you can do is talk in these microphones. There is nothing more dangerous on earth right now than talking into these microphones. We are the literal front lines. It's no joke. We're in their databases. They've got a seat reserved for us, right? And it ain't on the ark. And so, and again, and those who took the jab, by the way, if you took the jab and you are some senior executive or royalty or something else, guess what? They tried to kill you, and it may have worked. If you got your children to take the jab and they're royal or they're billionaire children or whatever, they may never have children. We don't know that. They may be children that end up being mentally impaired, or that they may have just killed your bloodline. This is no joke, right? You're in a state of war. whatever you do, don't give money to somebody that's trying to kill you. Give it to people if you feel the need to give money out, which is important because that is a mechanism of fighting. At least give it to people that are helping your family survive, right? As opposed to people that are saying, oh, take the jab. It's the best jab ever. Look how fast we did it. We're such smart people, right? You know, and we're giving away billions of dollars to people that are obviously trying to kill us, right? We're giving away billions of dollars to people that are invading our countries. And yet people will still support, they'll pay, you know, $200,000 or whatever to sit at a dinner table with people like Trump. And total selling out your own people, right? Investing in companies that are, you know, I'm on these calls sometimes with basically people and very interesting people. And they're talking about how they're investing in companies that are big pharma companies. I'm like, what? Don't you? Of course, they're in quadrant 4. They're in quadrant 4. They've got far more money than the average person will ever see in their lifetimes. They're very wealthy people, and yet they're investing still in companies which clearly have tried and may have succeeded in killing their family lines. Very wealthy, allegedly very smart, investing in people who are openly trying to kill them. Again, that's quadrant 4. Hurting others while hurting yourself. And one of the things that Sopola says in his book on you know, the 5 or the laws of stupidity, I think it is, the laws of human stupidity, is you always underestimate the vast number of people that fall into quadrant number 4. Anyway, I'll go on for hours, but I've got to get ready. We got a big day tomorrow. There's a big protest in Tokyo.
One final question, then, Michael, because I think you've been saying amazing things, and it's I don't want to let you leave without asking you this question, which is for the ordinary person. Let's use that slightly patronizing term, who just lives their life. They want to rear their children. They want to love their children. They want a best life for their children, and yet they're watching this, even at the very best of times when they're fully aware, they're spectators at this absolute shit show. What would you say to those people? Is there a demeanor they could adopt in the face of this that would actually, if you know, combined, multiplied by millions, could actually result? How might you talk to people, say, what do you do every day? How do you put one foot in front of the other in terms of just living your life and still resisting this to the extent that you can as an ordinary person without power?
Everybody has power. Everybody has power. And even if they have zero wealth whatsoever, there's people that, I mean, the act of spreading news, for instance, that's helpful. Like, for instance, the act of spreading our messages. Just spread our messages. That's free. You know, see my Substack and some post that you think is helpful to people in Ireland or some other place, spread it to those friends. Or Mike or yours, right? Spreading those messages. Those are ways to help. And another way to help is when you're in positions, many people are in positions to actually do things passively. In other words, by not doing something, often you can have a great effect by, you know, well, I don't want to go into details. I don't want to get in any trouble, but I mean, you know, use your imagination. Everybody can do little things that kind of gunk up and slow down the system of people trying to kill you. And when you're coming at them like, you know, basically mosquitoes in the forest, I mean, you can kill mosquitoes. There's no king mosquito, right? It's distributed, right? There's no king of the mosquitoes. Everybody's just doing whatever part they can. Get your little piece of action from and drain off the energy of the people trying to kill us. Drain off the energy. Cost them time. Remember, they can't replace time. When they have to do things that cost them time, you know, the clock is ticking. You know, things can change tomorrow, and maybe maybe something changes. And at the end of the day, this is a process. It's a long fight. It's not going to be over tomorrow. It goes for generations. And now it's our turn because keep in mind, people have tried to genocide Ireland for, gosh, how long? I mean, at least since the 1840s, minimum. It went back before that, though, obviously. It went back way before that. But then it was like nakedly obvious to the world. And so it's a process. This is the latest most severe attack ever, when they're just bringing in people that some fish don't mix well in the same aquarium. You're being replaced, and likewise is happening in the United States. It's already happening in Canada. I would write off Canada at this point. Canada is not going to. I mean, I'm just looking at this from a triage war perspective. I'm looking at it from places that I can help and places that, I mean, they're Canadians that definitely need help and can be helped. But I don't see the Canadians. They've lost the critical mass. They've lost the initiative, right? They're being invaded in large numbers with Chinese that have a lot of national level backing, Indians with national level backing. Canadians have already lost it. They've lost the initiative. It's over. I think that maybe they'll prove me wrong. Please do. Luxembourg, gone, right? Netherlands, gone. Germany, gone. They just blew up cooling towers on a nuke plant. Right, just literally did it. It's on the just did it apparently today. Right, you can see the new video up there, and there were people cheering the destruction of their own Germany, which means Europe. By the way, if you were gonna destroy, let's say, if I were going to destroy Europe's economy, I would go for Germany. I would focus on Germany hard. I would also focus on Netherlands for various reasons, and they're doing it. So that's a couple of the major reasons why Masako, my wife, and I predicted that Nord Stream and Groningen gas field would be shut down, and they were. We were predicting this way in advance. Why? Because we know what they're up to, and we know what we would do if we were in that position. If we wanted to achieve what they want to achieve, I would take out Germany. I would capture Netherlands, which is what they're doing, because Netherlands has obviously Rotterdam. And just south of Rotterdam is the biggest harbor in Europe, right? It's the mouth of the Rhine River. And it's like their Mississippi River for Europe. And south of Rotterdam is Antwerp, right? And the second biggest harbor in Europe. So that'll all be part of Tri-State City, the big smart city. So, I mean, getting long story short, it's time. I got to go. There's a big protest tomorrow in Tokyo, and it's about the invasions, and I want to see what's happening there. So I need to prepare for that.
Michael, where can people find you?
I'm on Substack with my name, Michael Yon, Y-O-N, and I'm on X, Michael Yon, Y-O-N, or you can look up Big Honey. Big Honey it's easier for people to remember and spell. So Big Honey on Substack or on X, and I appreciate y'all having me on.
John?
I'm on Substack, johnwaters.substack.com. I'm on X, Twitter, but very, very weakly. I don't like it, but I'm there, John Waters 2024, and I'm do the occasional video. I'm going to be starting my own channel soon on videos, so I'll be doing more and more interviews. I hope, and that's it.
I want to thank you to both of you guys. People that are listening, also follow Michael's wife, Masako Ganaha. She has a new Substack she started. She's also on X, and she's been a regular on my show. But please go out and support both of these guys. Support their work. Become paid subscribers. Follow their handles on X. It's important. We need your support. For people that are going to listen to this, I put all of my shows up early on Substack for my paid subscribers. For those who are going to watch it on YouTube and Rumble and listen to the audio through Apple and Spotify, please like it, share it, comment. I read all the comments, and thank you to both of you for coming on, and I look forward to the next one.
Thank y'all. All right, y'all have a good day.
Mic drop.